Welcome to the Plumeca Romexis tutorial series. In this tutorial, we will discuss Stage 1 of implant planning, setting the proper view orientation. So we have our data set open, and we're going to be doing Stage 1 of implant planning, which is to prep the data set for the proper orientation. So first thing we do is we start in the panoramic module. So we come over to the left and click on panoramic. Now in the panoramic module, there's a default pseudopan that's created. We do have a sagittal view, default pseudopan, axial view, and a 3D model rendering. You can always hit reset view if the data doesn't come in and it's an original orientation, depending if you were working with the data previously or not. There's a default arch curve that will fit most jaw sizes. However, most of the time you're going to be drawing a new jaw line for this particular patient's anatomy. So what we want to do to start is we want to scroll down in the axial view to the region of the mandible where we're wanting to do the implant plan. Go over on the right hand side under panoramic, and here's the icon for drawing a panoramic curve. We select that tool and we just plot points through the center of the mandible to draw the panoramic curve custom for this particular patient. When you go to set the last point, go ahead and double click. Now we have a panoramic curve for this particular patient. Now let's isolate our region. Since we're working in the mandible, the maxillary region is not necessarily needed in the view. So we can maximize what we're seeing on the screen by coming over to the right, in the upper right, under the Adjust section. Click on Define Data Range tool. This works like a shutter system, like pulling the blinds down over a window or pulling the blinds from the bottom up. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the slider right here, and we're going to pull the blinds down. On the bottom, we can grab the bottom one. We can pull these up a little bit. And now, all we'll see is what's left in this window after we click OK. So now we've isolated our panoramic view. Now we're not quite done yet in orientating our data, prepping it for the next stage of implant planning. If we're to measure for an implant in this region right here, we would most likely want to measure on an angle from here to here. However, if we were to do a cross-sectional slice of this right now, we would end up measuring from here down to here because this is the straight parallel. So basically, this blue line, which is the axial slice plane, all cross-sectional slices would be taken perpendicular to this blue line. So how do we remedy this situation? Well, the easiest way to do that is to go over to your 3D rendering and turn on the blue slice plane, which is the axial slice plane. Now, since all cross-sectional slices are rendered perpendicular to this slice plane, let's change the angle of the slice plane to be more along the angle of the lower mandible. To do this, we bring our mouse up to our sagittal slice plane, do a right mouse click, and rotate and basically tilt the head of the patient back. As you do this, if you look at the 3D window towards the lower right, you can see the blue slice plane tilting with the data set. So we tilt the blue slice plane, release. Now notice the pseudopan re-renders itself. Now our root tips of our adjacent teeth are starting to become more perpendicular to our blue line. We can tilt it just a little bit more. And now if we were to do a measurement perpendicular Here, we would get where the implant's going to be placed. So now we have the proper orientation to do our measurements and implant planning. So now we can move on to stage 2.